Hi, James from engVid. Meet You Can Grow. Reading Sci-Fi or Scientific American. 10 things coming to you in the future. Speaking of coming to you, I would like to talk about phrasal verbs that we can use in the business environment, whether it is an interview or just working with colleagues or co-workers. I'm going to work on 7 of them with you. First, we'll talk about what a phrasal verb is. Then we'll talk about the prepositions that we're going to use and how they're changed by the verbs we'll add and how you can use them in a business environment. You ready? Let's go to the board. So, E says on or off. This doesn't really help us right now because we're not going to work with them. I want to read something to you, and then we're going to insert later on what the appropriate phrasal verb will be once you learn what they are. Simple conversation. Hey, Jay. This is E. E's talking. Hey, Jay, I have to cancel the 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. James, why? What's up, E? Mr. E, the boss asked me to accept more work on the Helen Williams account. James, yeah, she wanted me to review it in detail with you. Mr. E, we were supposed to look for information online about the important parts of the account and contact her to give her the information later. James, I heard you two don't have a good relationship. E, well, that would have required you to get the right information from the right people. Sounds okay. Nothing to change. But when we speak as English people to one another, we will use either idioms or phrasal verbs to contain the same amount of information but in a smaller, recognizable pattern, word pattern. And a pattern can be anything like on my shirt, how the red and white goes. It means something that is repeated, and because it's repeated, it's easily understood. All right? So we've done the sentences on the board, and I'm going to go right now, and we're going to get ready to teach you the prepositions and the phrasal verbs so that we can put them in the right place at the end of this lesson. Are you ready? Let's go. So, we did all these beautiful sentences, and you don't know why. We're going to go to the board and figure it out by looking at the phrasal verbs and prepositions. So why don't we start off with, what is a preposition? A preposition, I look at it as prepositioned, is we've designated, or we say, a preposition tells us where something is going to go. We use it in sentences to tell us how, where, and why, right? Preposition. And because of its position, it gives us an indication between the verb and the subject, what they're about, right? So I go to the store, right? Direction. What's another one we can say for a preposition? For, this is for you. You will receive it. Using that preposition tells us how the verb and the object or the subject are working out. Now, why are we doing this? When we use phrasal verbs, we take prepositions plus verbs. The verb still keeps most of its meaning, but as you change the preposition, it changes the meaning of what it... when you add a preposition, it changes the general meaning of the two coming together. Got it? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of give you a general outline of what the prepositions I'm working with today mean, and you'll see how when we add it to the verb, how it changes it, and then when we go back to our sentences on the board, you'll go, oh my gosh, this is how it works, and this is why it means this. You ready? Let's go to the board. First thing we should look up is the preposition off. When somebody says off, you probably know it most commonly from turn off the lights. It's a movement away or detaching. Now, I'm not going through all the definitions because off has about 5 definitions. I'm just going to deal with the ones that we need to work on with our phrasal verbs today. In future lessons, I'll tell you different meanings of them, and you can see, when you see them all together, how you can figure out what the preposition or how the preposition affects a sentence or a phrasal verb. In today's meaning, off means movement away or detach. And you know that already. If you jump off of something, you detach or leave it. To remove, right? Or to move. The next one is on. When something's on, it's touching. A good example is, let's do it on Monday. Well, when we say do something on Monday, and usually use the preposition on for days, it means there's an attachment or a movement on, right? We can also say touching, move, or continuing, right? So an example for continuing is move on, continue. Okay? Over. Funny enough, because you would never think of this, but when we use the preposition over with other verbs, it can mean communicating or considering, thinking about. Think it over. Ooh, you like that one? Right there. It means to communicate, to consider, think about, or communicate. Up means collecting, coming together. Approaching means coming closer to. When you say the car pulled up to the house, the car came closer to the house. Completing, we'll finish up on Monday. And improvement, let's fix it up. Right? So I've given you some examples there and told you how the basic meanings. Now let's look how we use these prepositions in these phrasal verbs to create new meanings or greater meanings. Remember we said off means to call off? Or say off means to detach or move away? If you call off something, it means to cancel an event. When you cancel, you move away from it. You're not going to do it anymore. So you're moving away. Take on, it means to accept more work. Here we say attach or touching. Well, if you have one thing and you attach another, it's taking on more work, right? So you accept to have more work or more responsibility, right? So if you take on more work at work, you're going to have more work. Tongue twisted. Get on. Now I put with, right? But in this case, on means what? We said on means touching or attach, or to have a good relationship. Well, when you have a relationship with someone, you're either close or far away. If you're attached, you're probably touching. So if I say I get on well with him or her, it means we are close. Over, okay? Sorry, I got another one. I got this one before I forget. Depends on. Somebody needs something to work, okay? So you need it. So you need to have some kind of touching or contact in order for it to work. So I need this. This has to be attached to me to work. And that's why we say depends on, right? So it depends on what time it is. It depends on Fred. If Fred is not in contact, it won't work. Depends on the time. If we're not attached to the right time or happening at the right time, it won't work. Over. Over means communicate or considering. So when you go over something, it means to review in detail. You have to consider, think about something, and probably communicate it with someone else. When I go over your work, I'm going to look over the work, but then I will communicate what I found in that work. Right? I will think about it and communicate it. Look up. What did we say about up? Up means collecting, approaching, completing, and improvement. When you look up information, you're looking information on a book or online, that means you're collecting it, right? So you're collecting information you're looking up to approach knowledge, understanding. So we're using these two together down here. And finally, to follow up. You want to contact a client and give them information. When you follow up with somebody, you're going to collect the information, right? Approach the client and complete the meeting by informing them so they have more information to make a better decision. Okay? So now I've shown you how we've gone from taking our prepositions to help form new meaning by adding them to verbs. And as you can see, call, you know what call means? Make a call. Call off, you're going to call someone to move away, right? Take, when you take something, you bring it to yourself. Take on, and we said on means to attach. And you can go, oh my gosh, yeah. By themselves, they mean one thing. But just by adding these prepositions to each verb, we've increased the meaning so you can say more with less. And when we go back to the board in a second, you're going to see how we're going to replace the sentences or the sentence parts that we started with at the beginning of this video with these new phrasal verbs, and how it can say shorter sentences, make much more sense, be fuller with meaning, and make you clear and like a native speaker. Don't forget, we're also going to do homework and bonus. Now. Okay, so now that I've explained the phrasal verbs to you and the prepositions, let's put it into action, all right? So, we did the sentence. We'll go over it one more time. Hey, Jay, I have to cancel the 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. Why? What's up, E? The boss asked me to accept more work on the Helen Williams account. Yeah, she wanted me to review it in detail with you. We are supposed to look for information online about the important parts of the account and contact her to give her the information later. I heard you two don't have a good relationship. Well, that would have required you to get the right information from the right people. Quick snapshot, like picture. And now let's go into the phrasal verbs. Now, let's do the first one. I have to cancel. What did we say cancel was? You can do the same thing with a wedding or any event. That's right. Call off. When you cancel an event, you can call it off. Call off a wedding, call off a meeting, call off the 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. So they're going to call it off, and we're going to try and figure out why. What's up, Yi? The boss asked me to take on or accept more work on. Okay. Now, one of the things I want you to pay attention, I'm taking my time, of course, to let you try and figure out before I get there. Look how many words this phrasal verb or the phrasal verbs I'm using can replace. Look at the space. So the boss asked me to take on the Helen Williams account. That means more, take on yourself some responsibility, or take it on yourself. In addition, right? What about the next one? Yeah, she wanted me to review it in detail with you. All right, what do we have? What do we have here, Billy? You have won a brand new car. Okay. Go over it with you. Just as on means in addition, to go over means information. Go over something, right? Inform. What's the next one we got? So we're going to go over it, review it with you. We are supposed to look for cheated some of the words. Well, one of the words is here already. I'm sure you caught it already, right? So I'm going to erase it, but I don't need to because I'm going to replace it. Erase and replace. But all of this has to go, and we can just put this. Look up, right? To add on when we're looking up something, to inform ourselves. We are supposed to look up the important parts of the account and what? For inform and communicate, follow up. Remember what we follow up? We get the information and we give it back to somebody. Additional information. So up meaning in addition. And you notice how this whole entire sentence just disappears, like myself. Okay, so here we go. I heard you two don't have a good relationship. What do we say instead? Or what can we say? Now I'm getting rid of don't because I have to. And I'm going to change it over here. Okay? And I'm going to put it back in here because we need it. And I'm speaking to myself saying the word don't is necessary to make this sentence make sense. So some of the times you will notice I will change it to make it make sense, and it's necessary. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is how these two words can contain all of this information. And that's why we use phrasal verbs as opposed to just the verb or just the preposition. It cuts down on how much we have to write, but gives you the same amount of information. And in this case, it's negative. Don't get along. It's not along, sorry. Don't get on. And if you remember, when we said you get on, you can have a good relationship. When you don't get on, you have a bad relationship. Now, what about this last sentence? Well, that would have required you to get the right information from the right. Blah, 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 blah. It's very long. It's cumbersome, which means a lot, but not comfortable. What do we say? Okay, I'm going to get rid of all of that. All of it must go like a sail. And this is what I meant by I have to change the sentence in this case. I can't just say that depends on. It's not really enough, but you get the idea. That depends on. And you will notice how much shorter this particular sentence is compared to that long sentence I had. And let's go over it just to make sure we have the same meaning that we started with. So Mr. E says, "Hey, Jay, I have to call off the 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow." James says, "Why? What's up, E?" E says, "The boss asked me to take on the Helen Williams account." It actually sounds better, right? James, "Yeah, she wanted me to go over it with you, right? Review it." E, "We are supposed to look up the important parts of the account and follow up later, right?" And I forgot to put this follow up with her, because in this case, the boss, right? So there are some things, as I said, we have to change a little bit, but we could have said we could have to follow up later. But in this case, I want to say follow up with her later, okay? "I heard you two don't get along." Well, that depends on who you spoke to. Cool, right? So there's that hidden information where it's like you had to speak to the right person to get the right information to know if this was true. I don't need to say that. I just go, that depends on who you spoke to. In that case, since you're listening to me and I'm speaking, I would like to do a bonus and I teach you a few more phrasal verbs so we can go up to the magic number 10 and give you some homework. So let's go and take a look. Drag on. What does that mean? When something drags, it usually means something follows behind or is on the floor being pulled. Okay? It is not moving quickly. That's why it's being dragged. Think of when you see a mother with a child in the mall shopping, and the child's like, "I want to go, no, I want to go." And she goes, "Come on, you have to go, we have to go now." She drags them along, right? In this case, when we say something drags on, it means to continue. One of the meanings from on. And we go on longer than needed. So if something drags on, some of you might say this video is dragging on. It means you should have ended it 5 minutes ago. That's what we mean by something drags on. It went on longer than needed. The meeting dragged on for like 3 hours. The movie dragged on for almost infinity. Open up. That takes the meaning from up, from approach. Do you remember when we talked about, up and approach, but when you open up to somebody, it means you talk about your personal life or you talk about feelings that are important to you. So if you open up at work, you're going to talk about your personal life or your private life. If you open up to a lover or a loved one, you will tell them your innermost feelings, how you really feel about something. Dress up. Dress up, as we said, from up means to improve. When we dress up, it means to make something look better. One of the easiest things to think of is right now, I'm casual. If I were to dress up, I would put on a tie, change this to a jacket, wear some pants, comb back my hair, and I would be dressed up, looking good, right? But it also means to make something look better. Let's just say you're at work and you have a project and it's okay. You go, we need to dress it up a little. It means we need to improve it to make it look better. So maybe the boss likes it or the client wants to get it, right? So you're designing a new car and you go, we need to dress up the way this car is. We're going to add some lights and some other details. We're making it look better. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better, but it looks better. Got it? Okay. So now that I've given you 3 extra ones to use on and you can use at work, especially this one, you'll use that a lot. He just dragged on the meeting with his blah, 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 blah. Let's give you some homework. The homework I'd like you to do is to write out your own conversation using at least 4 of these phrasal verbs in a work situation. You can think of an interview. You can think of a meeting. You can think of presenting something to a client and trying to use these words in the way that I've mentioned to you. You could say to a client, hi, listen, tomorrow I've got something really desperate I have to do, so I'm going to have to call off our meeting tomorrow. Okay, yeah, listen, but I will follow up with you on that next week, okay? And why don't we go over it over the phone? And I've just used 3, making it up, walking around like I'm talking to a client. You can do that too. You've done this with me. I know you've got a good handle on it. And in case you don't, I would like you to go to, or you don't think you do, go to www.ing as in English, vid as in video.com, where you can do the test and test yourself to see how well you've learned these. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and you can get the latest video I have by ring my bell, somewhere around here, and we'll shoot you the latest video I do. Also, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch and to learn. We're a community, so try it out. You can put some of these phrasal verbs, paragraphs you try on YouTube or on engVid, where other students will join you, and I'd like to take a look and see what you're doing as well. Anyway, listen, time for me to take off, and you have a good night or day, whenever you're watching this, I don't know. Ciao.